Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I am Anel Lee, your host, bringing you raw and authentic wisdom. For the past 2 months, I have been talking about boundaries. I started giving you the definition of boundaries. I talked about the consequences of not implementing your boundaries, the effects it could have on your physical health, on your mental health. And I also gave you the steps into being able to implement your boundaries, identifying your boundaries. So if you have not seen those videos, I invite you to go back and look at those videos. We're not going to be talking about boundaries today. We are going to be talking about practicing vulnerability in your relationships. For those of you who know, I am a domestic violence survivor, and it took a while for me to practice real, raw vulnerability. I've I want to say that I have always been an open book, but after my own trauma and the trauma that my family experienced, I was a little hesitant. I took some time to heal after my divorce before I started dating again. And one of the things that my husband will tell you now is one of the things that drew me to him was my authenticity, my vulnerability. And that came with time. It wasn't something that I just grew overnight. It came from practicing it. It came from opening up. It came from me sharing my thoughts and feelings and experiences with trusted individuals to allow me to feel safe and supported. And then I just took off. Then I was able to share my story, my survival story to anybody. And I'm not ashamed to share my story because I had a safe place to be able to practice it. So today I'm going to be giving you 4 steps that may help you be able to practice vulnerability, especially if you are a survivor of trauma. It's going to take a while for you to start trusting again. So let's go ahead and get started. So, number one of the first things that I did was I started healing. And why I started to heal was because I wanted to really work on being self aware. I wanted to reflect on my emotions. I wanted to reflect on my fears. I wanted to reflect on my insecurities and understand what is it that I need to work on? What are my triggers? I couldn't have done that without feeling safe and being really grounded. I couldn't have done that reflection if I didn't start with healing. So if you have not started healing your own trauma, I invite you to go seek a therapist. Go seek somebody who you could trust help walk you through your dark times to bring you into the light. So that's number one, which that kind of goes hand in hand with, let's say, 1.1, because I think it is tied together with the learning to self reflect. It's also learning who you could be vulnerable, right? Be vulnerable with trustworthy friends, with trustworthy family members, especially with a therapist who could support you and hold space for you without judgment. Now let's move on to number two. So, number two, I invite you to start small. You don't want to word vomit on somebody that you just met and telling them all your business. Although for me, it worked because I'm a firm believer of what is for you. And my husband was for me. So one of the first conversations that my husband and I had, I literally told him everything that you're not supposed to tell somebody that you're dating, your partner, a love interest. I told him. He asked me and I shared with him. but I'm still going to invite you to start small. Begin sharing less sensitive topics and then gradually increase your level of disclosure as you become more comfortable with sharing. Okay. And then as you're sharing that, you have to be authentic. Okay. Share your thoughts, share your feelings without trying to impress them, without trying to please others. Really just be authentic, be raw, and be yourself. Number three, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You need to, it will serve you to embrace discomfort because vulnerability can feel very uncomfortable, but the magic doesn't happen in your comfort zone. The magic happens outside of your comfort zone, okay? So remember that vulnerability is a sign of strength and courage. It is not a sign of weakness. So really remember that as you are starting to be vulnerable, as you're learning to share, and you're gradually working up to that. And number four, this is very important. Give yourself grace, okay? Practice lots of self compassion. Be kind to yourself and acknowledge that vulnerability is gonna take time. Vulnerability is part of being a human. There's nothing wrong with sharing your thoughts, sharing your emotions when you have a safe space to do it. So I'm going to invite you to really start practicing vulnerability in your life, in your relationships, and watch the different people that you start attracting into your life when you are being your true, vulnerable, raw self. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you found this video helpful, please share it with somebody. And please remember to turn your notification settings on so you could be notified when I post a new video. And if you find my videos helpful, make sure to subscribe. See you all next week.